Guys, welcome. Tony Katz. Tony Katz today. Good to be with you. The Supreme Court is finally getting involved in the things that I think it should get involved in. William Jacobson, Cornell law professor. I spoke with him a little bit earlier. We'll share that with you. Yes, we should fire the generals. And I'm not listening to anybody tell me we should wait on the Epstein files. I'm including people who I know and adore and love. They're just wrong. And I'm going to bring that to you right now. How's the lighting? Is it good? Show's about to start. No, I will not wait for the Epstein files. I was told we would have complete transparency, and I expect them. Now, I'm told they're coming today. I am told we're going to see them today, and I think that that's just great. Now I want to see them. But I was bothered when I saw people I know, like, and trust out there on social media yesterday saying, everybody just calm down. It might take a while to get this out. No. Don't sleep. Drink coffee. Do whatever it is you got to do to get it out. Who was involved with Jeffrey Epstein and the trafficking of children and young women and older women? Who was involved? Who has to go to jail? Don't tell me I have to wait. I'm not listening to any of that. Tony Katz today. Good to be with you. I get their argument. Their argument is you might have to go through things. There might be current investigations. Maybe you don't let this name out because you're waiting on this and it allows this to happen, right? And the dominoes fall. You got to be prudent about these things. Listen to me carefully. You told us, incoming administration, and all of those people around it, that we would get information once you took office. It's been a month. I want the information. And if you haven't gotten it figured out by now, I think you're hiding something from me. Now, you could say to me, Tony, who do you think you are? These people. No. Let me explain it from the beginning. I'm in charge. You're in charge. We, the people, are in charge. The 77 million people who voted for Trump are in charge. What is this idea that I voted for somebody and I let them rule over me? No. That's other countries. We don't do that crap. We don't play that silly nonsense game. We're in charge. And you said you would do it. And we said, that's great. I'll give you a vote. It's been 30 days. Let's see it. And I think the people who've been saying, well, everybody slow down. Sorry. You're being unserious to where the American people are. And I'm a little shocked by it. I'm a little dismayed by it. And I am absolutely fine with coming here to this show and saying, wrong. We want the information. Now you say to me, what does the information mean? Well, I think it means a bunch. Those people associated with Jeffrey Epstein on a cursory level may not have known all the duplicity that was going on. Remember that Jeffrey Epstein, this financier who didn't kill himself in jail. Oh, what? No, is that real? We can't say that? Do we have to get the lawyers in here? Because to be clear, Jeffrey Epstein didn't kill himself. I didn't know this would be so hard. I didn't know this would be so difficult. Of course he didn't kill himself. Me, I'd bring William Barr into a courtroom. You're the attorney general. You've got this guy in jail, and all of a sudden the guard falls asleep. The two guards fall asleep, and the video camera isn't working, and the next thing you know, Jeffrey's dead. Would you stop it? I am pretty sure that's the plot of about 7 Roger Corman films. He didn't kill himself. We're all just being ridiculous here. Jeffrey Epstein was this financier, and Jeffrey Epstein did a lot with universities and this group and that group. A tremendous amount of money. Money attracts power. We're not going to deny this. And a lot of people were connected to Jeffrey Epstein in one way or another. Being connected in that public way, in that public view, is not necessarily a sign of guilt. So we're clear. When people say, oh, look, there's Jeffrey Epstein with Donald Trump, what do you have to say? If Donald Trump, the president of the United States, whom I voted for 3 times, was on the island with Jeffrey Epstein, I want Donald Trump thrown in a jail cell now. How's that? But that Donald Trump was at a party with Jeffrey Epstein, Everybody was at a party with Jeffrey Epstein. Everybody was at a concert with Jeffrey Epstein. Everybody was everywhere with Jeffrey Epstein. And I'm willing to bet you there were people on Jeffrey Epstein's private plane, but they didn't fly to the island. They flew somewhere else. I do not say of those people, I do not say of them that they are guilty of anything. That's not it. If they were on the island where children were being trafficked, and it was obvious that children were being trafficked, and it's obvious that Prince Andrew, the brother of King Charles, was involved in this, I want those people in jail. And I'm not going to wait on a list because somehow we got to wait for this one and that one and the other one. You should be working overtime. You should not be sleeping. You could take a quick 10-minute cat nap, then wake up, down a couple of Red Bulls, Pam Biondi. Biondi. Why do you call her Biondi? Bondi, and get to work. Get it done. And anybody saying otherwise, I'm sorry, you're being ridiculous. You're being unreasonable to think that anybody should have to wait any longer. I find it stunning that we have people who are like, well, it's going to take time. No. Time's up, boo. Time's up. Let's get this done. Remember that there is a difference. Even Democrats will be in photos with Jeffrey Epstein. I'm not going to accuse them of any wrongdoing because of that. They could have gone here or there with Jeffrey Epstein, and I'm not going to accuse them of any wrongdoing unless they were on the island. If you were involved with young women who you knew were young women, you're going to jail. And the only thing that can I'll disagree with Trump about policy and things like that, sure. You want to talk about turning me? If there's a name on that list that was involved on the island, it's a big Republican name or a big donor name, and Trump goes, I'm a boy with standards. What can I do? Same thing if I see Democrats see a name on that list and go, well, it's not so bad. Which I've already wiped. That's wiping my hands with them. Was that too on the nose? Can't believe we actually have to have a conversation about it. Can't believe there's a conversation about whether Trump should fire the generals. He brought this up yesterday in the cabinet meeting that he wants to fire the generals, fire every single general involved in the Afghanistan withdrawal. Great start. I want to fire every general who was involved in Afghanistan over the past 20 years that created a military that couldn't last 11 days against the Taliban. Billions and billions and billions of our tax dollars to help build a military that was built on air support, and then we took away their air support and they couldn't survive for 11 days. For that egregious oversight of building a military in a completely wrong way, in a completely wrong capacity to get zero results, I want you fired. Well, they already retired. I want to take their pensions. I don't want them to have a moment's rest. What were they doing? I want to know how I take them from general, even in retirement, to private. All right, I gotta stick with an officer, second lieutenant, fine. Whatever it has to be. We spent 20 plus years. And don't get me wrong, we saved lives in the process. There was good done. I hate looking at a soldier and telling them it was for nothing. You lost buddies, you lost friends, you lost your brothers in arms for nothing. I don't want to be that guy. But Afghanistan could not last 11 days against the Taliban because we didn't train this army to do a damn thing. So my question is, for 20 years and all our money, what did we do? It's not enough to fire the generals regarding the withdrawal, although it's a great start. Now, there's a question that people on the left are asking, and I have this conversation. I'll share it with you a little bit later with William Jacobson, Cornell law professor, legalinsurrection.com, about this idea that, well, the president can't do this. Well, the president can't do that. President could do, what is this nonsense? What is this silliness that the president can't? Let me see if I can find this. This was on CNN, where you've got Torre, and he's out of his head about what the president can and can't do. I think this was it right here.
The FBI, now we're in control of the military, silencing media. This is what you do in a dictatorship.
Are you suggesting that the president is not the commander-in-chief of the military?
I'm suggesting that the president is going to put in charge somebody who is going to contravene the Constitution. And at some near point, this conversation will look very silly for you because it will be obvious. And right now, you're gaslighting. When we get to the actual rubber of the road of this, it will be clear.
I'm interested in this conversation. He's going to put someone in charge who will contravene the Constitution. Like who? What do you mean by that? The president is in charge of the military, is he not? You said he's going to put someone in charge of the military?
The president is in charge of the military. That is how it works.
This is important conversation.
Yeah, I mean,
it's important conversation, Abby Phillip, because it's obvious that Torre didn't understand that the president is in charge of the military. I mean, if you're watching the live stream, look at his face. By the way, Squidward has looked better. He is stunned. He is shocked by this revelation. The president doesn't decide how the military moves and operates. Only this president, only Trump can't do X, Y, and Z. Our problem is that we have too many generals. Just like we have too many things that are classified, right? Part of building a bureaucratic state is classifying this and classifying that. Or we got to classify this, or you got to have classified access. You're going to have access. No. Those people can't have access. We'll have access. We'll classify this so they don't get access. Classify. And then a bureaucracy like the Defense Department, well, you got to have a general. You got to have somebody running things over here and hire 42 people over here and hire 170 people over here, 2,000 people over there. With general this. Oh, yes, general. Absolutely. General right away. General. Anything you need, general. And then it never ends. This is where the bloat comes from. This is the bureaucracy that we are all addressing. This is it. You have too many generals. You overclassify everything. That's how you create bureaucracy. That's how you create bloat. And that's how you create a group of people who truly believe they are not answerable to the American people. Firing every general in relationship to the disgusting, despicable, horrific withdrawal from Afghanistan that led to 13 dead service members that did not need to die is absolutely acceptable. And if you want to fire more generals, knock yourself out. You go right ahead. I mean, Trump was basically saying this in the cabinet meeting, and he puts his hand on Pete Hegseth's arm, right? He's like, look, I'm not going to tell this fine young man what to do. I am not going to tell this guy what to do right here, but let me tell you what I do know. I'm just saying, maybe a couple of those guys over there, over there, those guys. No, not those guys, that guy and that guy, not that guy, but the other guy, the friend's guy down the river guy, you know what I'm talking about. Maybe they ain't got to be here no more. Maybe, just maybe. Look, I'm just spitballing here, all right? Maybe they don't need to be here no more. That's all I'm saying. It was very rough and tumble. Very rough and tumble. He was given the directive. Time for these guys to go. Oh, Tommy, you won't be seeing him no more. But it's just a start. Fire more generals. Do not stop. Also, when you take a look at Torre in that conversation on CNN with Scott Jennings, I'm just going to say for the record, you will never see him as anything but Squidward again. There's just It is what it is, and it will stick in your mind forever. I'm Tony Katz, and this is Tony Katz Today. Okay, I seem to have angered. I seem to have angered some people already. I mean, I've gotten, a fair amount of comments in my life, right? And if you're gonna call me trash, sure, okay. But you are a scourge. A scourge is a scourge. 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 One of the worst people around for sure. That can't be true. I mean, I made popcorn. How bad of a guy can I be? By the way, I've had these bowls, which say New York on them. I've had these bowls, I think my entire entire existence. I've had these for forever. I pop it fresh. By the way, nothing says dangerous radio like eating popcorn before going on air. Can't be a scourge. Look at me. I mean, what kind of thing is that, Todd? Todd, are you not getting enough at home? Do you need a hug? What are you? Seriously, producer Landon, we need to feed you back into the show. What he said was very rude, Todd, and I apologize. What is this? One of the worst people around for sure. What does that even mean? I'm not Alec Baldwin. That's crazy talk. That's just silly. Anyway, runny nose at the end of this cold. Woo. Not cool at all. Not cool in the slightest. 30 seconds to go before the radio show. Let me just see what we're taking a look at here. We've got Trump with the British Prime Minister. That comes up a little bit later. I hope to be able to bring that to you in every way. And Ed Morrissey is coming up. So we got a lot going on. A lot going on. But time for another go around. I am bothered by the idea that I know what a go around is. And you would think a go around is something you'd find on Urban Dictionary. Oddly not. And please do not go to Urban Dictionary. Do not search for that unless you're on a friend's computer or a workmate's computer and you don't care if they get fired. I'm trying to help. I'm trying to help the best I can. Tony Katz today. Good to be with you. It's not your radio. Finishing up this cold, which I mean, you go to DC and you get the swamp stuff. I got it. You know, that's it. Luckily it hasn't hit me like it has hit some other people. But I came across this go around thing. You know, you saw the video of that Southwest flight, right? Landing at Midway Airport in Chicago. I mean, it is inches from the ground, right? It's ready to land, landing gears down, it's going to land. And this private jet just scoots right across the runway. And the pilot of the Southwest flight hits the throttle and takes back off. Incredible. In that it was just quick, decisive, followed a procedure that seems very, very obvious, and saved lives. That Southwest pilot saved lives. Everybody on the Southwest flight, everybody on that private flight, without question. Well, hours before, an American Airlines flight arriving at Reagan National Airport did the same thing. It was a flight from Boston, and it had somebody else crossing the runway, took right off. And it made me wonder if we're getting too emotional about the whole subject, which is a weird thing to say, because when you see it, you say to yourself, that's not good. It's not. Yeah. Plane is landing, another plane crosses. That can't be good. This can't be the standard. Or is it? Is this just the way it is? According to American Airlines, listen to how this states. American has a no-fault go-around policy, as a go-around is not an abnormal flight maneuver and can occur nearly every day in the national airspace system. It's a tool in both the pilot's and air traffic controller's toolbox to help maintain safe and efficient flight operations. Well, that would lead one to believe that it happens all the time. But the question before us is, why does it happen all the time? Because we have so many flights out there and things get busy? Because they know that air traffic control can't see everything? What do you mean air traffic control can't see everything? Isn't that their job? So now you have a lot of people who don't know much about aviation. I'll put myself in that mix. I know everybody who's does a video or on radio, they're all of a sudden experts at everything. Today they're aviation experts. Tomorrow they're North Korea experts. Tomorrow they're experts on, I don't know, dishwasher repair. Although none of them can actually repair their own dishwasher. I don't play around. If I don't know it, I say the words. So this is just normal. That these things are crossing and moving and doing all these things, and sometimes the plane that's about to land can't land, and that's the way it is. That's just normal. Well, if it's just normal, can we stop reporting on it? If it's just normal, can we stop sharing it? If it's just normal, would the FAA come out and say, oh, it's just normal? Would air traffic control, whoever heads up that group, that's just normal? It's just normal. All these near misses, just normal? If you tell me I shouldn't get emotional about it, if you tell me I shouldn't get worked up about it, okay. Well, but it's a weird thing to be normal. I think that's where Americans are. This is what you're all right with? This is, you know, it's Animal House. Fat, drunk, and stupid is no way to go through life. This can't be the normal. Keep it here. This is Tony Katz Today. Guys, a quick break, and then we've got more with Ed Morrissey coming up. I'm telling you, it's wrong to eat popcorn in a break. It's just stupid. And Marcy, I'm not going to lie, man. Eating popcorn in a break is just guaranteed destruction. It's like the worst radio thing in the world to do.
Eating anything in a break, right? I mean, you know how that works.
Yesterday I was on Newsmax, and before I went on, literally at this station right here, I ate a steak. That's a true story.
Steak. Only salad would be worse. I'm sorry. Only salad would be worse.
You connect, and I'm like, excuse me, and I went like this, and I'm flossing. Literally, before we went on, that's a true story.
Honestly, though, having shreds of meat hanging down from your teeth would have been a perfect visual for you, man.
I've decided I don't give a damn about anything anymore. I don't know what it is. I'm Fingers Malloy, the great Fingers Malloy, who I love and adore, and I do Eat, Drink, Smoke with, has joked for forever about doing the Bridge Burner podcast. And what I've determined is he's right and I'm wrong, and I'm done. So ask me about anybody. I'll tell you what a bitch they are. I don't.
Fair enough.
Oh yeah.
I'm kind of in that mode right now, but
nice, guys.
I'm trying to restrain myself, but
this
yes.
is Ed Morrissey from hotair.com. We're back in a minute there, producer Landon. 30 seconds. And I'd asked Ed if he wanted to chit chat. And you've got a little bit about the Epstein list, and I want to hear your thoughts about that. But I also you've got something here about Pritzker that I think is worthy of conversation too. So I think we'll do a little 1-2 punch there. You good with that?
Yeah, absolutely. Whatever you want to talk about, I'm good.
All right. Right there. By the way, according to Sarah Smith, who runs all our digital work, I should be wearing more of these shirts.
Looks good. I like that shirt on you.
Well, maybe you should keep it in your pants.
Dude,
we'll be back in a second.
I am tumescent.
It was an interesting story over there at hotair.com about J.B. Pritzker. Now, J.B. Pritzker, I don't think I'm a guy who should sit there and discuss other people's size issues. No, not like that. J.B. Pritzker is just a very, very obese guy. I wasn't talking about size issues. But when J.B. Pritzker goes out there and says that Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is dangerous, he's going to make your kids unhealthy, people just take a picture of J.B. Pritzker and go, come on. That's the whole argument right there. Tony Katz today. Good to be with you. Ed Morrissey joins me right now from hotair.com, where he is the capo di tutti capo over there. This is different. This is about health insurance in the state of Illinois. And for a guy who has made billions of dollars, it doesn't seem to equate that he doesn't understand that the system that they want to tell us we need more of, which is any level of government-run healthcare, doesn't work. What's the latest here that you have over at hotair.com?
So this is from the Chicago Tribune, which did a nice job of reporting on auditor findings in this healthcare program that Pritzker set up in 2020 that was to cover immigrants who were senior age, 65 or older, who couldn't be covered under Medicaid. Because there's some, there's definitely some qualifications that you have to go through, and immigrants under certain circumstances don't qualify for Medicaid. And because it was the pandemic, other states were considering this as well. And because seniors were an at-risk population, Pritzker in Illinois decided to create a Medicaid-like program, but simply with the state. Didn't have any federal involvement. The state was going to pay for it. And it was going to be limited, and it was only going to cost, a few $100 million and that sort of thing. And as soon as they got this thing in place, they started expanding it. And now it's covering all sorts of different kinds of immigrants. 42 years and above. I'm not sure why they're covering 42-year-old immigrants. That's not an at-risk population. And the pandemic's over, by the way. And yet they've expanded this program. And now it's cost $1.6 billion, which is 5 times what the original projected cost of this program was over that period of time. And an auditor finally went through it after 5 years, and 2 years after the legislature had to get more funding to it because it was running out of cash. They finally sent in auditors and said, well, here's the reason why. You got a bunch of people in this program who don't belong in it, and nobody's doing anything about it. You've got people in there who have social security numbers, et cetera, who should qualify under other programs.
So I want to make sure I understand the very basis of this program. Was this a program set up by Illinois to service solely and exclusively people who are here illegally?
Not illegally. They claim not illegally, although it turns out that they think that there's a lot of illegal immigrants there in there. These are immigrants who didn't qualify under federal rules for Medicaid coverage. And originally only seniors, and originally because of the pandemic.
Okay. So in walking through the program, they discovered that the people who claimed to be here legally were actually quote unquote undocumented, which is of course the code word for illegal as all hell.
Right. The Chicago Tribune uses the term undocumented, but you're exactly correct. It means that they're here illegally and shouldn't, and Illinois taxpayers shouldn't be covering their medical bills.
But you asked the right question, talking to Ed Morrissey of hotair.com. And this is a very dogy question that you asked. Your question, first question, why did it take 5 years to do an audit? Like that's a standard right. Why did it take so damn long?
That's exactly what my point is. 5 years into this program, and not just 5 years into this program, 2 years ago, the state legislature knew that this program was incurring vast overruns, perhaps as much as 5 times of what the projections were. All they did was they provided more money for it, but never asked to audit why it's costing so much more than what the original projections were. Now they've gotten an audit, and J.B. Pritzker's like, oh, yeah, well, sorry about that. Our bad.
But isn't this exactly what the Doge conversation is all about?
Yes.
Isn't this the conversation that Americans are having? We get checked for everything. We get audited all the time. We're checking our books constantly. We're making sure we've got. Why doesn't J.B. Pritzker care if the program works or doesn't work? And has he been asked that question specifically?
I don't know that he's been asked that question specifically. The audit was really just a financial audit, apparently. But Tony, I mean, if you're spending 5 times as much money as you had actually laid out for this program, that's a problem in and of itself. And taxpayers in Illinois are not exactly undertaxed to begin with. And now they're running deficits that they're going to have to make up, probably with more taxes. And it explains why some of the counties close to Indiana are thinking about changing state flags. I mean, they've already had, I think there's 7 of them. They're considering that.
Now these are my people, right? Indiana guy here, and people mocked the Indiana General Assembly. They mocked Todd Houston, the speaker, for going down this road about how do we take these 33 Illinois counties and can we bring them into Indiana? We're setting up a working group, trying to figure it out. I'm all in favor. I'm all in favor as long as they will sign that they will not bring any Cook County crazy with them. I am a huge believer that when you move to another state, you should not be allowed to vote in a local election for 3 years. You shouldn't be allowed. You have to learn how the place works first. But I'm more than willing, just like the eastern half of Oregon wants to go with Idaho, just like these areas of California wouldn't mind heading out. This is actually a very real thing where people realize they're being absolutely ripped apart by one area of a large population, and the rest of the state is being harmed.
Exactly. And I think you're right. I mean, obviously you can't set it up so people can't vote.
Oh, but, says you. I'm telling you where there's a will.
But I understand that. And, I moved to Texas recently, and that's a real concern down here because there's a lot of Californians, for instance, moving to Texas. Fortunately, mostly around Austin, where, you can kind of, keep that sequestered to some extent. But yeah, there were signs, they had billboard signs that said, why did you move to Texas? To remind people that they moved there for freedom.
Right.
Don't bring your blue state policies along with you.
Talking to Ed Morrissey over at hotair.com. The other piece that you've got is you're kind of you bring up Dershowitz. Dershowitz warns Bondi, a little Epstein knowledge is a dangerous thing. And of course, we're waiting on the release of the Epstein files. And I have seen people say, whoa, let's not rush Pam Bondi, the attorney general. Our friend Kurt Schlichter was saying the same thing on Twitter, to which I say, that is nonsense. We were promised files. We were promised transparency. And I don't care how little sleep Pam Bondi gets or anybody in the Department of Justice. Show us like you promised you would show us. We are supposed to be getting information today. In the end, what do you think this list actually does?
Well, I think what it does two things. One is it puts the focus where it belongs, and the other is that it will prevent the focus from falling on people that weren't involved. And Dershowitz is one of those guys, right? Dershowitz had, I think, a casual encounter with Jeffrey Epstein, and his name got dragged through the mud. People were accusing him of being part of the pedophilia. He has adamantly and vehemently denied that. He has sued people who have suggested it and prevailed in court. And that's the reason why Dershowitz is saying either release it all or don't release any of it. Because if you only release pieces of it, it really doesn't solve the problem. We need everything, all of it. The videos, everything. If you have to blur a face or two to protect victims, fine. But he's correct. This is something that you either do full transparency or just don't do it all, because releasing only part of it doesn't solve the problem. It doesn't actually create certainty, where certainty is what people are looking for.
You and I are in agreement on that what has to be known is its totality. And I was discussing this earlier, and I don't think people understand how pervasive in certain circles Jeffrey Epstein was. This financier, all this money, even though it might have all been a shell game, the work at Harvard, being in Jeffrey Epstein's circle was a big deal. It's not surprising that this leader or President Trump, before he was president, or Bill Gates, or all these people were involved in these circles. He played in those celebrity circles because money was flowing, and that's how the game works. So it'd be that you may have had that connection with Jeffrey Epstein is absolutely not a sign of guilt. The question is, are we smart enough as a society to be able to split the baby on that one?
Well, this is the reason why you have trials. Part of the issue here is that the Department of Justice really didn't pursue this the way that they should have pursued it. I think it was 2013 or 2012, I believe, or maybe it was earlier than that, when they first charged Epstein with this stuff. They really kind of just constricted it down to some prostitution type of stuff and gave him house arrest. And they didn't come back to arrest him until 2018, I believe it was, or 2017, on what was really the big charges in here: sex trafficking charges, some money laundering charges. And they didn't pursue anybody else except Ghislaine Maxwell for being part of that. And there were people who were involved in this, and that's what people want. They want transparency on this. So the first thing is that it really looked political, that they were going after Epstein, and Maxwell, I should say, because Maxwell's in prison for this stuff, but not anybody else. And so the only way that you're going to be able to get past this is really through full transparency, and then an accounting of why steps weren't taken with some of the other people that were part of that conspiracy.
Talking to Ed Morrissey of hotair.com. The cabinet meeting takes place yesterday. I didn't say we were going to discuss this, but I figured throw you for a loop. It doesn't matter. The cabinet meeting's purpose was to show that, look at me, I'm not Joe Biden. Joe Biden needed Jill Biden to run a cabinet meeting, and he might have fallen asleep, and I got this all on lockdown. And then, of course, everyone decided to make the story about how the cabinet doesn't like Elon Musk. Right. That's how I know it must have been effective, because they're still talking about Elon Musk. You watched yesterday. You saw what transpired. You think this was an effective bit of iconography?
Absolutely. Look, I don't think that the contrast was lost on the American people. This is a president who's in charge. And I know people are saying, oh, Elon Musk was running the meeting. It's nonsense. If you were watching it, it was very clear that Trump was running the meeting. And at the same time he's doing that, and this is unusual for cabinet meetings, they're taking questions in real time from from the press pool that happened to be in the room at the time. And he's joking around with some of the reporters, and he's answering the questions, and sometimes they didn't like the answers, but it was actually pretty well done. It showed somebody who is in charge, clearly in the moment, understanding what's going on, and pursuing the objectives that he ran on. And I think that that's terribly effective. And I think it's one of the reasons why the media is frustrated by it, even though they're getting more access than they have ever. I don't ever remember a cabinet meeting where questions were allowed to be asked live for that kind of extended period of time.
Yeah, I forget who it was that it was Scott Jennings on CNN who quoted Chris Cillizza, who I never am a guy to quote, that Trump took 1,009 questions in his first month compared to Joe Biden's 147. Yet we still want to be told that somehow we're not. This is a coup. This is a hostile takeover. This is a dictatorship. These things are still happening. Well, we've got a minute there, Ed Morrissey, hotair.com. The left is still going to play this game for the next 3.5 years plus.
Yes, absolutely. This is the only play that they've got. It's Orange Man bad. That's all they've got. They don't have anything else. And so, the idea that suspending the White House Correspondents Association for determining pool composition for a president who's basically talking to everybody all the time, answering any question live, extemporaneously, that's somehow damaging democracy. And Gallup just had this poll out this morning. I don't know if you saw this. Basically, or it may have been earlier this week, actually, now I'm thinking about it, but that basically they have reached a new low in media trust. The media has reached a new low in consumer trust, a new low, and it wasn't high before. They're hitting the ground and digging, and so
hitting the ground they're face planting is I believe the terminology. Ed Morrissey, hotair.com. I appreciate you taking the time. Hotair.com. More is coming up. I'm Tony Katz. The radio show is on break. I'm eating my popcorn. Did you see this comment before I ask you a question? Where this is? Where is he? Oh, did he delete? No, this is Todd. Todd called me a scourge. Look at that. One of the worst people around for sure. Me.
You're a scourge. You should have that in your bio.
I know. I really should. I did not ask you. I should have, about the White House Correspondents Association and this change, which, Jackie Heinrich from Fox was saying, look, you may be happy about this, MAGA, but now you've set the precedent that the White House decides. So one day you're going to lose, which is always a solid argument. You buy into that one?
It is, except for the fact that basically Biden was doing that throughout the first term. I mean, they were pre-submitting questions. You could see that because he had the cheat sheets in his hand with the name and photograph of the reporter he was going to call on and what the question was going to be. They were basically throwing the game for him for 4 years. So, I mean, again, theoretically, yes. And I still think that there's an issue about travel pools, especially composing travel pools, because if all you're doing is picking, One American Network for the pooler, I get the concern over that. And I think that it's worth talking about. But the idea that somehow these guys were stalwarts for democracy, they helped cover up Joe Biden's, senility for 4 years. I'm sorry, I'm not buying that crap.
Real quick, how many books are going to come out that declare that Jake Tapper is out of his damn mind and he can kiss off? How many?
Yeah. Off the record, kind of off the record.
You're still live streaming.
I know, but he was in my DMs last night complaining about this too. So, and I won't categorize it any further because that's already sort of leaked out. But yes, they have no idea how badly they have mangled trust, and it's not just Jake. I don't want to pick on Jake specifically.
I have a personal animus, and I don't have that with anybody.
I don't really have a personal animus with Jake, but I mean, he's clueless. The rest of the mainstream media is clueless about how badly people view them, especially after the Joe Biden thing. I mean, the idea that they're going to come out and be truth tellers now is absurd. Alex Thompson, his co-author, actually does have at least a little bit of standing because he was writing about it in April of 2023.
I am going to try and write the book to counter this. I'm going to try. I mean, I'm not a writer. I write about barbecue, all right? But
I'd partner up with you on that.
you want to partner? Yeah, but we're going to write it in like a month.
I'm not sure I can do that, but you want to talk? I'm willing to talk about it. I mean,
Yeah, but
this
you're
is
like
an
a
absurd
professional.
argument.
You're like good at this stuff. Me, I eat popcorn on air.
Yeah, but you look great doing it.
Ed, I would write the book with you in a heartbeat. In a heartbeat. This is insane. How dare they write this mea culpa as if some, and it is. It's this. It's not even a mea culpa. It's a shield.
I was one of the few who was talking about this nonsense.
I can't believe gambling is taking place in this establishment.
You're winning, sir. Oh, thank you very much.
Ah! Oh, that's so great. Oh, Ed Morrissey, hotair.com. Oh, you listen, I'm not good at that. I'm not good at writing, but I would do it with you. I'll do whatever it takes. This is nuts. This is obscene. And yes, I do find Jake Tapper to be obscene. And I will share my story of personal animus that he doesn't even know how despicable he was. He was just so desperate to get a click that he didn't mind that he decided to do something in defecation style all over me.
I don't know that story, so
I'll
maybe you
tell
and I can talk about that later.
Another time. Ed Morrissey, hotair.com. Go live your life, boo. I'm
All
happy
right, man.
about the book, man. Seriously. Because I think there's going to be 9 million books. 9 million books that are going to come out. By the way, Ed Morrissey's really smart. Like he's still there. He's smart. Yeah. Yeah, you better come prepared. You better come prepared. Ed, I'll catch you later, man. Be good. There he goes. There he goes. Let's get back to the radio show really quick. Then we're going to take a break and then we'll keep going, if that's all right by you guys. Yeah. I know a lot of people talking about the death of Gene Hackman at the age of 95. And what we're learning now is that he and his wife and his dog all found dead in their home in Santa Fe, the actor, Gene Hackman. And what is possible is that they had been dead for a long time. That the bodies were found in different rooms. There was a wellness check being conducted. What happened? What took place? I want to discuss because I had you guys know I do a morning show in Indianapolis, 93.1 FM WIBC, and I had a take, and everyone was like, Tony, it could have just been carbon monoxide poisoning, and my take was much darker. And why didn't I think of it? It could have been this. It could have been that. Why did I go to this very dark place? Well, I want to discuss because whether I'm right or wrong, I don't know. But when I heard what happened, it made me think of what may happen in this world. And what do we think of it? I'll share it coming up. I'm Tony Katz. This is Tony Katz Today. Yeah, it was something. It was something. I will absolutely share that with you guys. We're going to take the break, right? Radio show is in break right now. So we will take the break as well. We'll be back on the other side of the top of the hour, and we will go from there. Glad you guys are here, and stick around. We got more show coming. I think that's enough of that. Guys, welcome back. Tony Katz. Tony Katz today. I didn't grab a cigar. That's all right. That's all right. I'm having one. I'll have one in a little bit. Yeah. So first, glad you're here. Don't forget to subscribe wherever it is you're watching, and follow on the Twitix there, Twitter X at Tony Katz, Instagram Tony Katz, Facebook Tony Katz Radio, and YouTube Tony Katz. Get into that. It's the end of a cold, and so there's nothing like live streaming while you've got a runny nose. It's just, first of all, it's sexy. But most importantly, it doesn't interfere with anything you're doing at all. Don't be ridiculous, Tony. Doesn't have any problems, no problems whatsoever. But it's good to be with you. There is still so much more to get to. I will explain why I am infuriated with President Trump, and it has to do with the 51st state of Canada. That is coming up. Also, more conversations about eggs. This is not going to go away anytime soon. If you've seen the latest numbers of what it is you could be expecting, it's just massive. And then this Gene Hackman story. I've got that, plus William Jacobson, Cornell law professor, legalinsurrection.com. And of course, I'm about to start the show and I'm out of tissues. So I got that going for me. Honestly, I'm telling you, let's burn it all down together, guys. Got nothing to lose. All right, let's begin the show.
What is that?
It's a ridiculous word game that's going on here. I mean, who doesn't believe in individual liberties? Who doesn't believe in free markets? Until a month ago, we lived in a democracy and capitalist country. Now we're in an oligarchy and a plutocracy, and things have changed. So
when we discuss how the political left has lost their mind, the voice you heard is that of Jeff Jarvis. And he wants you to know that it's the end of times. He wants you to know that we are all going to die. I would like to remind you, maybe these people are not accurate, but just to go back over what it is he said on CNN. He starts with a lie. He makes a statement that is false and utilizes it as the pretext to then making an argument.
it's a ridiculous word game that's going on here. I mean, who doesn't believe in individual liberties? Who doesn't believe in free markets? Until a month ago, we lived in a democracy and capitalist country. Now we're in an oligarchy and a plutocracy, and things.
No, we're not. But let's start with this beginning part. Who doesn't believe in personal liberties? The political left. Do you think they believe in my liberty to say what it is that I want? They don't. They worked to curtail it. They utilized friends and allies in places to limit abilities to engage on social media. If Elon Musk doesn't buy Twitter, it's still going on. It was the great lifting of the veil. Do you know how different this election would have been? So when you ask the question, who doesn't?
Game that's going on here. I mean, who doesn't believe in individual liberties? Who doesn't believe in free markets? Until a month.
The political left doesn't believe in free markets. These are the people who are happy to manipulate energy prices so that green looks more acceptable by comparison. Wasn't that Barack Obama's entire methodology? He said the words that energy prices would have to necessarily skyrocket in order to make green energy look comparably affordable. And then this idea that we somehow don't live in a capitalist nation anymore? Dear Lord, Mort Saul was talking about that in 1957. in my office, in my studio, right here, where I do all this work, to my left, I have got 3 comedy albums up. I have some others to put up. Where are? Oh, here. Like this is what I still have to put up. That's Robert Klein, a child of the 50s, right there, right. So I have that one to go. I've got the things. I just haven't done it yet. And okay, here's Richard Pryor's greatest hits. Right, these are the actual albums. I'm not joking. I've got the actual albums. This is Steve Martin's "Let's Get Small," right here. That has to go up. This is the Side Splitter. This is Red Fox, right? His album cover, right, has got to go up. And then I've got a George Carlin album right there. I could have picked any George Carlin, but that's it. But on the wall in my studio, if I could figure out how to swing the camera around for the live stream, I would do it. I have Steve Martin in the bunny ears in the white suit, a wild and crazy guy. I have got Behind the Button-Down Mind of Bob Newhart and Mort Saul, A Way of Life. Mort Saul, who doesn't get enough credit by any stretch of the imagination, was doing routines in the late 50s, early 60s, where he had a chalkboard. He was like the precursor to Glenn Beck, and he's doing things on a chalkboard. He's making the kids laugh, and he's doing things on the chalkboard, and he brings up capitalism, and he looks directly into the camera, right into the camera, and he says, "Hey kids, don't forget to ask your parents about capitalism. It was great." That was late 1950s, early 1960s. This conversation happens all the time. But the idea that we don't live in a capitalist nation because of Trump, do you know how crazy that is to say? How crazy that is to the ear, how crazy that is in the brain? Because of Trump, we don't live in a capitalist nation anymore. Under Biden and Kamala Harris, capitalism was everywhere and spectacular. But under Trump, it's not. Do you know how insane you have to be to say that out loud? Well, being insane is kind of what they do. It's kind of who they are. It's how they act. It's how they react. And you know, I made sure to ask the question there of Ed Morrissey over at hotair.com, because I think it's important that everybody understands something that we discussed early on. It's not that the left won't learn. It's that they can't. To learn is to admit that you were wrong, that your beliefs were inaccurate. But if your beliefs are your religion, the way that you get comfort, the way that you get paid, the way that you receive other types of compensation, what I refer to as reputation capital, how possibly could you move away from such a thing? You can't. They can't. And we said it early. We were on this before anybody. And you are now seeing in all the ways and all the places this plays out. It's obvious to say, well, that was a mistake. Trump didn't do that. I disagree with him over here, but he didn't do that. Okay, that did not happen. Nope. It's going to happen. I was once at a dinner in California when I lived in California for a short time. Don't worry, it didn't infect me. I have a greater appreciation of guacamole now. That's about as far as it went. And at this dinner was somebody's teenage kid. And this was during the days of Obamacare gearing up and ramping up, and we were discussing it, and it was a conversation of who's going to pay for this and who's going to pay for that, and this teenage girl was saying it was going to work. Well, how does it work? How do the economics work? You watch. That was her answer. You watch. Why ever engage when simply you could just, dismiss somebody for disagreeing with you? I didn't realize then, this more than a decade ago, that it was what a serious problem that was, and how it would not just apply to moody, know-nothing teenagers who, when sitting at a meal with adults, should be taught to sit there, be quiet, eat your peas, and don't speak unless spoken to. Well, you want to talk about offending people. And listen, I'm not opposed to kids giving their opinions so they can then learn why they're wrong more often than not. I am opposed to kids thinking that somehow they are equal to the adults at the table, which they are not. They should learn from the adults at the table how these interactions go back and forth. That's pretty important. That's the bigger lesson. I've never been at a table with my own children where I didn't think they shouldn't be able to speak if asked a question, but they should know to be respectful and know that at the age of 12, maybe you don't know everything. Listen, learn, ask questions later. Now, as more grown adults, engage. Just be prepared to have somebody disagree with you and realize that you made a mistake because, well, you're at an age where you're going to make mistakes. You don't know everything. You just don't. It's all right. They can't learn because to learn is to admit the mistake. And if they admit the mistake, what do they tell all the people they profit off of? How does that work? How are they able to survive that? So you understand what happens. I consider the following a mistake. I don't know if Trump does, but I need Trump to stop referring to Justin Trudeau as governor. And I need him to stop referring to Canada as the 51st state. Why? Because Trudeau might win this damn election. He was out. He was resigning. He was moving aside, and the party was going to replace him, and that would be the new prime minister. And we could have had Poilievre, who was an actual normal human being, a conservative, maybe not a conservative like me, but certainly somebody who could help lead Canada into a greater future. And then Trump started basically pimp slapping Justin Trudeau. And Canadians got all uppity and said, "You settle down, hoser." I believe that's what they said. I wasn't sure. I wasn't there, but I believe there was some kind of conversation of hoser and yeah, I'll have a Labatt's. I believe that's what got said. I'll have to double check my sources there. Canadians got infuriated. We don't care if it's Justin Trudeau. We hate Justin Trudeau. You don't get to hate Justin Trudeau. He's not heavy. He's our brother. So conservatives were leading the Liberal Party in Canada by 20 points. In the latest poll, where a week ago, 6 weeks ago, I should say, the Liberals were trailing the Conservatives by 26 points. The Liberals are now up by 2. Mr. President, what are you doing? Stop it. Nobody wants more Trudeau. It's not good for any Canadian citizen. Unless, oh, you sneaky son of a you-know-what. Is this the plan? Is this the goal? Get Trudeau to stay because he's weaker and you might be able to work a better deal? The Canadian people can be so manipulated that they'll vote for this yutz, this guy who blackfaces like it's his job. Seriously, it's super weird how many times he's done it. This absolute leftist, progressive, woke, go after the truckers loser. You can actually manipulate Canadians to vote for this guy again because you might get better deals out of him. Okay. I want Poilievre. I want Canadians to do what's best for them. But if they're insane enough to vote for this guy again, All right. We'll just take the trade deals. We'll take the tariffs. By the way, understand the economics. Canada can't handle the tariffs after an hour. They can't. Their whole economy is dependent. They cannot survive it. Just so we're all perfectly clear. And if Trudeau wants to be the face of that, sure. You betcha, eh? Oh, makes me want to watch Strange Brew. I'm Tony Katz. This is Tony Katz Today. All right, welcome back. Welcome back. Going to the comments. Karen, why are you showing just, well, I don't talk like that. And what does being Jewish have to do with anything? I don't know what you're talking about, Karen. Except you're living up to your name right now. I forgive me, that's rude. I apologize. I don't know. I have no idea what this is, Karen. I grabbed more tissues. Why do the boxes have to look like this? We can get a more, more streamlined box. I don't know what you're referring to at all, Karen. And if you would tell me, I'd greatly appreciate it so that I could answer your question properly. Trump is such a disgrace that the right is losing the elections around the globe. The German CDU is left by U.S. standards, but we did cozy up to Putin and sex traffickers and the Tate brothers. I'd rather be woke than a man who protects sex traffickers. No one here is protecting sex traffickers, weirdo. No one here is a fan of the Tate brothers, you weirdo. I have the audio. Do I have the clip of? Oh yeah, here. I'll play this right here. I've got this right here. What, I have 1 minute? Yes, Landon? I've got Governor DeSantis, I'll bring it to the show in a second, saying that he doesn't want the Tate brothers in his state. So I don't know what you're talking about. And Trump is such a disgrace that the right is losing. You mean Malay is losing? Maloney in Italy is losing? What are you referring to? The AfD, which I know people want to call this horrible far-right Nazi party. I don't know enough about them, and I'm still reading. They got 20% of the vote. What do you and CDU got 29%. It was the most they've ever gotten. The Liberal Party is the one that got collapsed. I don't know what you're referring to here, Andrew. I don't think you're as connected to the reality as you think you are. Just a fact. But again, Karen, let me know what's going on here. And I'll bring this to you. I'll bring this to you right now, right here. Music is coming back to the radio show. Coming back, and the radio show's starting, and then we will be on it as well. We'll wait. Just waiting.
podcaster and news newscaster Andrew Sneed may be on his way to Florida. Is he welcome here? What the state do? Send back to Romania or whatever?
We have no involvement in that. I read about it through the media. Clearly, the federal government has jurisdiction, whether they want to rebuff his entry into the United States, and I have confidence that whether it's Pam Bondi or Kristi Noem, that they will be looking at that. I do know our Attorney General, James Uthmeyer, is looking at what state hooks and jurisdiction we may have to be able to deal with this. But the reality is no, Florida is not a place where you're welcome with that type of conduct in the air. And I don't know how it came to this. We were not involved. We were not notified. I found out through the media that this.
This is about Andrew Tate. And I admit I know very little about the dude, and I don't care that he was in MMA or was he a kickboxer or whatever it is. I have no interest in the guy, and I think if you have interest in the guy, there's something very off. Sorry, this is not my this is not the manhood you're looking for. Tony Katz today. Good to be with you. He was in Romania because there was a travel ban that was lifted that allowed him to now fly back to the United States. And then there was this whole interview he did. Was it Alina Habba who was like, I think you're great and I think you're terrific. And it was like, oh, okay. This is the guy who has been accused of multiple cases of rape or sexual impropriety. Right, I'm saying they're all accusations. Innocent until proven guilty is always the way it is. It's I just have no interest in the guy, and I can appreciate that Ron DeSantis there, the governor of Florida, because he I guess landed in Florida. He's like, we don't want him. We have no interest in him being a Florida resident, but we don't get to decide whether somebody can come back into the country. They were arrested along with 2 Romanian women on charges of human trafficking, rape, and forming a criminal gang to sexually exploit women. Aside from that, he's a great guy. Why did people find themselves gravitating to him is a unique question. Interesting question. And I think that part of it is for a lot of young men, they have no role models at all. None. No role models of strength, no role models of manhood. And so, when you're in the desert long enough, you'll drink the sand. I think that has a lot to do with it. Where's anybody to show them the way? Right? If you don't have anybody who can help with that, if you don't have anybody who can lead with that, you will find it's in a mutilation of scripture, I guess, false prophets anywhere. That's how I've always kind of viewed him. Just another one in a long line of people who can manipulate other people. It's not a new story in that regard. The question is, what is the point now? What happens now with this guy and whether there's who sees value in him, right? The article that I'm reading was questioning whether or not he was going to meet with Donald Trump. For what reason is President Trump meeting with this guy? Am I missing something here, that this guy is important and special and good and everything's just oh my gosh, he was done dirty, I tell yous. Nothing about him has made me think that he is that he's the kind of guy I'd want to know, and he's the kind of guy I'd want in my kid's life. That they were allowed to travel back, all right, I don't have an answer for that in the slightest. Does it absolve them of Whatever the charges are still against them, I don't think so. They'll deal with that. But if your kids are looking up to Andrew Tate, gosh, that's that's rough. That is rough right there. You might want to work on that. My take. Everybody's different. That's that. The passing of Gene Hackman and how this story is growing stranger and stranger, and William Jacobson, Cornell law professor, on what it is the Supreme Court is now saying. I'm Tony Katz. Okay. Yeah, Andrew Tate's always odd to me. I don't know why anybody follows, anybody listens. I don't know why anybody cares about him, his brother. No part of it. I don't get it. Andrew Tate likes Donald Trump, so Trump's going to meet with him. We've yet to be convicted of any crimes in our lives. We have no criminal record anywhere on the planet ever. I said innocent until proven guilty. I'm just reading about it right now. I'm not interested in the dude. It's interesting how cult of personality works, though, right? Like how people are able to create the kinds of followings that they have been able to create. So again, people search for what they search for. Sorry, I was just reading. I didn't want to get too carried away. So I have this conversation. That's me and William Jacobson, Cornell law professor. I'm going to bring that to you in coming up next, discussing what's going on with what's the word I'm looking for? With the Supreme Court and these judges who really believe that they are just, like in charge. They totally believe it. Oh, sure, you might be the president and there might be Article 2 of the Constitution, but we'll decide what you can and can't do. Who are these judges? And has the Supreme Court gotten involved because they've just had enough? Right? Have they looked at this and said, you know what? Y'all nutty. And we need to put our foot down. Someone needs to be the adult in the room, and that's our job. So we're going to go adulting, which is what I'm hoping is taking place here. And then there's more about Gene Hackman. It's very, very weird. Very odd. And I'll tell you about the dark place that it sent me to. And then we can get into what it is we know. Dear Lord. Crazier and crazier by the second. Coming back in 60 seconds. I like that. Let me get back to your comments here. Andrew, I would comment on your comments like this one. Do I care if the foreign policy chief for the EU canceled the meeting with Rubio? Does it matter? Trump said he's putting a 25% tariff on the European Union. The European Union is going to respond. They canceled the meeting. So what? What does this say? Your argument is that Trump is the one who is wrong here because the EU canceled the meeting. So what if the EU canceled the meeting? That doesn't mean anything. What a silly thing to say. There's a lot of silly. And Andrew, I wanted to ask you, you're a professional driver. I don't know what that means. What kind of driver? Trucks? Stock cars? IndyCar? Formula One? Midgets? What do you drive? Let's get to this, my interview with William Jacobson. That's coming up right now. See if I can do this right. it seems that the Supreme Court may have had enough of lower courts acting like they're in charge. Or really, I should be more to the point, acting like they're in charge of the executive branch. Tony Katz today. Great to be with you. That's William Jacobson right there, Cornell law professor, the mind behind legalinsurrection.com. You had the story that the Supreme Court stays the district court order that the U.S. has to pay $2 billion to foreign aid contractors. This all goes back to President Trump getting elected. I mean, that's truly what it goes back to, sir. But it goes back to the idea of whether or not the Trump administration can stop payments. Congress can allocate money, but there's a question of whether or not the president, the executive branch, can stop the payments. He wants the freeze. These lower courts say you're not allowed to do that. And now the Supreme Court, Chief John Roberts stepping in and saying, whoa. Everybody just stop for a moment. Can you give me a basis of what's happening here?
Sure. Well, the Democrats planned, and the New York Times wrote about this in last November after the election. The Democrats planned a campaign of lawfare. They lined up 800 lawyers, according to the New York Times, at least 40 organizations. And their intent was the second Trump did anything, they would be in court. And that's what's happened. We have several dozen lawsuits challenging virtually everything that he does. One piece of what they're challenging is his ability to slow down payments, slow down the distribution of funding. And in this case, it relates specifically to USAID under the State Department. There are contractors who purportedly perform services and who are purportedly owed money by the government, and the government said, slow down here. We're not just sending it out. We're going to review it. We're going to make sure they actually did what they said. We're going to make sure there's no fraud here. And a district court judge in D.C. has ordered them to make the payments. District Court Judge Amir Ali, who was, I believe, the last Biden judge who got confirmation. I believe it might have even been in December. And the only reason he got confirmed was two Republican senators, Braun and Cruz, decided not to show up for the vote. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been confirmed. Well-known left-wing activist, strongly opposed by Republicans. So he issues an order telling the government that by midnight last night, they had to pay $2 billion on these contracts. And the government says, well, wait a second here. First of all, you have no jurisdiction here. If these people have a claim to be paid, they have to go to the Court of Claims. They can't go to federal court. You have no basis for issuing this order. We have sovereign immunity, all these things. And he says, I don't care. He says, you're paying by midnight the next night, which was last night. They went to the DC Court of Appeals and said, wait a second, this is an unlawful TRO, temporary restraining order. He has no power to do this. It impinges on the executive branch. It's a violation of separation of powers. And the Court of Appeals told them to pound sand, said, this is improper. You should have appealed the prior TRO, not the enforcement of the TRO. Having, of course, told the government in another case a week ago, you can't appeal a TRO. Now they're saying you should have appealed the TRO. And so they went to the U.S. Supreme Court, raising a whole host of constitutional and jurisdictional issues. And just before midnight, I think about 10 p.m., Chief Justice Roberts, who has the responsibility for the D.C. Circuit, issued an order staying the district court.
Now, let's get into that, because each one of the Supreme Court justices does indeed have a part of the country that they oversee, other courts that they oversee. But let's go over what it is that got written here. This is from your site, from legalinsurrection.com. Government to the Supreme Court. The government cannot function, and the president cannot discharge his Article 2 responsibilities over foreign affairs if a district court can appoint itself claims processor for the federal government and second guess the executive branch's determinations on pain of contempt proceedings. And this is what I think they are doing a very good job there of explaining what everyday Americans are saying, who may not be that involved in anything having to do with the legal system and didn't go to law school, etc. We elected a president, and here is some unelected judge, some district court judge deciding that the executive can't actually do executive things. Is this what John Roberts agreed with we the people?
Well, we don't know. His stay doesn't issue a decision accompanying it. There will be a decision eventually. But John Roberts, who's a very institutionalist sort of person and cares very deeply about the credibility of the judiciary, has to be concerned, as well as other justices, at district courts, not all of whom, but many of whom are run amok here. They are taking on responsibilities to micromanage what amount to policy decisions, and in some cases, political decisions, as to how the executive branch is going to run, who you can hire, who you can fire, who you can have audit your books, who you can share records with, and who you can pay and not pay. Federal judges have been running the executive branch or portions of the executive branch, and that's not their role. Yes, of course, they get to rule on the legality of actions by the executive branch. I mean, that's not uncommon. But here, they're making policy decisions. They're micromanaging things. And I think that this is a signal by John Roberts that enough is enough. And we'll see what happens. There are other cases. There's one other case before the Supreme Court on whether they can fire somebody. There are other cases making their way up. But we really have a district court judiciary which has grossly overstepped its boundaries in a separation of powers sense and have taken on to running and micromanaging the executive branch. And that's not their role. And it may have gotten Democrats some short-term benefit because they've managed to partially freeze aspects of the Trump administration. But I don't think it will hold up, and I don't think it will survive the Supreme Court, and it shouldn't survive the Supreme Court.
Talking to William Jacobson, Cornell law professor, the mind behind legalinsurrection.com. When the court comes back, let's say that we live in a normal world, and we say that the executive can do executive branch things, but the court could also say, okay, it does executive branch things, but it can't necessarily stop spending if Congress appropriated it, right? That seems to be a big sticking point for a lot of people. Would you know off the top of what you've read or what your legal acumen tells you regarding well, not only the separations of power, if Congress is allocating this money, which is their job, right? That power of the purse, can the executive say, hey, you may have allocated it, I just don't want to spend it?
Well, I don't think it's that simple, because Congress allocates money and the executive branch decides who gets that money and how it gets handed out. So perhaps the executive branch can't say we're not going to spend what you've required us to spend, but that doesn't mean we have to send $30 million to this program in Ghana, or we have to spend $40 million on some show in Pakistan, or we have to give some left-wing group connected to various Democrat politicians millions and millions of dollars. So how it gets spent has always been an executive branch function. There's a grant-making process. There is an auditing process. And what the government has said in the case that Justice Roberts just put a stay on is, we're not disputing that if these are lawfully owed bills, we will pay them, but we need an opportunity to review them. The judge can't just say pay, and I think they put a number of 1,000 different contracts. Pay 1,000 contracts, executive branch, and you don't even get to audit them and look at them as to whether you actually owe the money. So that's the issue here. It's not an issue of defying Congress. The executive branch has always decided how the money gets handed out.
Is the Supreme Court, and I would argue that the Supreme Court claims to never want to be political and always gets political. I think John Roberts has done a bad job of splitting the baby here over the years. They want in on this. I mean, it should be them being the ones being in on this, but they're going to want to get in on this and make this declaration as clear as day, unless there's precedent that I don't know about, which is possible, that yes, indeed, the executive could decide that you may have allocated the money, but we're not sending it this way, we're sending it that way. Everybody prepared for this?
Well, I think John Roberts has to get involved, and the Supreme Court has to get involved, because the integrity of the system is at issue. The trust in the courts is already at a historic low. A lot of that is because the Democrats have been demonizing the Supreme Court, but we're at a historic low. And if you get district court judges essentially stifling, unlawfully stifling the agenda of the president who just got elected, collapse. There's going to be a complete collapse in trust in the courts. And I don't think John Roberts wants to see that. So John Roberts isn't doing this to say, in my view, John Roberts isn't doing this to save the Trump administration. He's doing it to save the credibility and the support for the judiciary in the country, because he knows that if they go too far, which many district court judges have been going too far, that credibility among the population will completely collapse.
Well, if the Supreme Court says the executive can make these calls, the Democratic Party is going to further collapse. Another conversation for another day. William Jacobson, Cornell law professor, legalinsurrection.com. I appreciate you taking the time to be with us. See, Tony, you know how to use the English language. More to get to. I'm Tony Katz, and this is Tony Katz Today. You got to love how we do that. That was a solid pre-tape, guys. That was world class. Can I get seriously, for the team, for the production team? Hold on, that was just me. Who are you applauding, Landon? I did all this. You didn't do anything. You should be celebrating me. Okay, then more applause, man. My God, Landon. There it is. Okay. William Jacobson. I think William Jacobson is the best guest no one's using. And don't get me wrong, he's on Fox and he does a bunch of stuff, but not enough. Not by a long shot. Not by a country mile is that guy getting used enough. Hold on a second. Okay, last one. No one's cutting Social Security. Okay, we're done. We're done with your silly comments. We're done with you. And I'm still waiting on you, Karen. I'll show all comments. I want to know what you're bothered by. You gotta tell me right here. Shopping the judiciary for a judge seems so simple. That's what we've been talking about this. William Jacobson has been talking about this. When the left wants to engage a lawsuit, they go judge shopping. Who's available that we can utilize to our purpose right now? Like who will give us the most bang for our buck? That's happening. And so what William Jacobson is really discussing here is, if the Supreme Court decides to play and decides to weigh in and say, whoa, the executive can do executive things. The rest of you, stop being crazy. That's ball game. Like that changes a tremendous amount of the scene and of the scenario. Because their lawfare tactics are now going to have to go to judges who are willing to look at the Supreme Court and this decision, this statement, and say, I'll defy, let's go to work. I'm not sure if this is what you meant, Supreme Court. Now they're going to get nitpicky and they're going to decide to press. There are absolutely judges out there who have no problem blowing up their own judiciary. Like it's kind of amazing how little they actually care about it. So it seems to me. Meanwhile, there's this thing going around with Joy Behar. I haven't heard it yet. I'm going to do it with you guys. This looks so good. This looks so absolutely terrific. I don't even know what to say. Let's see if I can make this work right. Okay, good. I got it. Because it was followed up by a tweet from Meghan McCain. And normally I'm like, all right, I don't talk about Meghan McCain in the slightest. Now I'm like, what is going on here? I'm going to share this with you. I'm just getting it all together. Getting every bit of it together. It's too spectacular for words. These people do not know what they are saying. They do not know what they are doing. And they cannot believe that they get in trouble for it. But they'll say anything. They'll say anything and be stunned that we see them. So I've got it. Here, you want a little hint of what it's going to be? You want a little hint of what it's going to be? How's that? Does that help? Oh, good Lord. Good Lord. Now what happened? Let me see if I can do this. Like, what happens if I refresh that? Will it just play right there like that? And is the audio playing? 'Cause it's not playing for me.
I think that's true. I don't think we ever
Okay.
want to really be
Good. I'll do it like this. Now I'm good. Now I got it. Now it's all together. Hot diggity. Dark Rogue, welcome to the show. See you there on the live stream. Good to be with you. I think I'm on Newsmax today, just after the show, so be tuned in there as well. Oh, this is going to be precious. It's going to be fun. We're going to hear it together because I haven't heard it yet. So good. All right. I preface this by telling you right now, I have not heard the audio yet. All I saw was across my social media feed was a tweet from Meghan McCain. All I saw was a tweet from Meghan McCain, and the tweet read, "If Elon Musk sues The View, I will join Doge." I have no idea what is going on, but now I need to know. I literally wrote back, what is happening? This is all too nutty. Tony Katz today. Good to be with you. All right. So here's what I've got. That Joy Behar of The View may have said something. I believe the word that we are looking for is dumb. She may have said something dumb. And as you know, we already know that she says many things that are dumb.
A bit late for that.
Agreed. So she's on The View, right, with her multi-million-dollar contract. I do not get paid enough. I'm just saying. And okay, so I have not heard it yet. This is what Joy Behar says.
I think that's true. I don't think we ever wanted really the responsibility of the job. He's not really bright enough to handle the job. And Elon Musk kisses his butt and strokes his tiny ego or big ego, whatever it is. And he doesn't get to he can take a nap while the guy was not born in this country, who was born under apartheid in South Africa, so has that mentality going on. He was pro-apartheid, as I understand it.
He's a naturalized citizen,
right?
Now.
He's a naturalized
Now he's
citizen.
a naturalized citizen.
Oh, really? How did he do that?
Oh, you just told us that Elon Musk is pro-apartheid? Your argument that Elon Musk, that's your argument? He supported apartheid? Are you on a scale of 1 to what's wrong with these people? This is at like 90 billion. Why would you say that? I have no idea where Elon Musk is on the subject of apartheid at all. Why would you say it? Well, I make an assumption, and in my world, assumptions are good enough because everybody loves my assumptions. Boom. These people are insane. Well, I guess the legal department.
Now I'm getting some flack because I said that.
We'll get you with a second there, Joy. The legal department got in touch with her over there at ABC.
That now I'm getting some flack because I said that Musk was pro-apartheid. I don't really know for sure if he was. He grew up at that time when apartheid was in full bloom before the great Nelson Mandela fixed that. He was around at that time, but maybe he was, maybe he wasn't. He might have been a young guy, too.
Might have been.
So don't be suing me, okay, Elon?
So you lied. You got caught in a lie, and you seem pretty PO'd that you got caught in the lie. She's sitting there, and she's kind of leaning back on her chair. Listen, I don't appreciate you people questioning me because more often than not, I don't know what I'm saying because I didn't get this job by being an intellectual. I got this job by having witty out-of-the-box comments that don't actually comport with reality. That's me, Joy Behar. I'm like Joan Rivers, but not. I didn't know you could say such things. I didn't know you could do this. You said that the guy supported apartheid. And then you said maybe he didn't. I don't know. Please don't sue me. And that brings us to the commentary from Meghan McCain, where I was like, what is happening here? And she writes, if Elon Musk sues The View, I will join Doge. How could anyone explain 2025? How could anybody explain what's going on? It's all too absolutely positively amazing. I don't know if you can sue for that because there was the apology. So I don't know. But Elon, your buddy Tony here. Let's find out, huh? I'm Tony Katz. Good God. Is that not amazing? Are you not entertained? Oh, good Lord. Good Lord. That is something. That is something else. All right, we got to take the break. I actually have to get changed because I'm going to do Newsmax after this. I got to be ready because we're going to do it like right after. So we're going to take the break. Everybody stretch. Trump is supposed to be showing up with Keir Starmer. He is the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom, in case you didn't know. Not doing a very good job of it. There's okay, so they moved it all. Of course they did. Of course. Why? Why do I trust these people? Good gosh, you're killing me. You are just ripping me apart. I thought I had this so well planned. I was like, look at me, got it all together. Let me see where they are with this meeting.
Primary reasons this started. And this was long before President Putin. They never said it was an impossibility.
All right, I'm going to let this run while I step away.
That's something that's just not going to happen. And then the other question I ask is about the land.
So we will be
back. Well, they've fought long and hard on the land, and you and I will be discussing that. We're going to certainly try and get as much as we can.
I'm going to let this play. If they're done, they're finished. And that's
not going to happen. Yeah, please.
Mr. President, you talked about having common ground with Keir Starmer, but there are things you disagree on as well. You described Zelensky as a dictator. He describes President Putin as a dictator. Do you see that as a problem?
The relationship between President Zelensky and President Putin is not a good one. You've noticed, right? It's not a good one. It's not a good relationship. And we're going to have to try and work something out. Sometimes that happens. I get along with both. I have a very good relationship with President Putin. I think I have a very good relationship with President Zelensky. And now we're doing the deal, and we're going to be in there. We're going to be actually in there and digging our hearts out. And hopefully, we need the rare earth, and we have some here, but we don't have enough. Our economy is very strong, and we need a lot of things that in some cases we don't have here. So I think we're going to have a very good relationship, but the relationship between them is not the best.
Mr. President, do you still think that Mr. Zelensky is a dictator?
Did I say that? I can't believe I said that. Next question. Yeah, please, go ahead.
Yeah,
sir.
Financial Times. Can you see any situation where US forces could be deployed as a backstop in a peacekeeping operation in direct confrontation with Russian forces?
Well, there is a backstop thing. You know, first you're going to have European countries because they're right there. We're very far away. We have an ocean between us. But we want to make sure it works. So I don't know when you say backstop, you mean a backstop psychologically or militarily or what? But we are a backstop because we'll be over there. We'll be working in the country. We're going to be, that's a great thing economically for them because, you know, when you talk about economic development, we're going to have a lot of people over there. So we'll be working in the country. So I just don't think you're going to have a problem. I think when we have an agreement, you can say whatever you want about security, who's going to do it or all, and that's going to be a very pleasant conversation. The hard conversation is, will we have an agreement? And I think the answer is yes. I think Russia will agree, and I think that I really believe Ukraine will agree also.
So will you discuss AUKUS as well? Just to follow up on that, if British troops are in Ukraine keeping the peace and get attacked by Russia, will you come to their aid?
If the British people are in Ukraine and they get attacked, you know, I've always found about the British, they don't need much help. They can take care of themselves very well. You know what? No, it sounds like it's evasive, but it's not evasive. You know, the British have been incredible soldiers, incredible military, and they can take care of themselves. But if they need help, I'll always be with the British, okay? I'll always be with them. But they don't need help. You look at their career. You have done very well over the years, haven't you?
We have. I'm very proud of our country. And but we've also always been backing each other up between our two countries. That is why this is the greatest alliance for prosperity and security I think the world has ever seen. Whenever necessary, we've absolutely backed each other up. And that's at the
Could you
core
take on Russia by yourselves?
Well,
all right, one or two more. Yes, ma'am.
In his remarks at the Munich Security Conference, Vice President Vance condemned free speech violations in the UK, particularly. Could you respond? What is your message?
I have an idea. We have the man right here. Come on. Let's go, JD. We're putting you on stage.
Great. Yeah, look, I said what I said, which is that we do have, of course, a special relationship with our friends in the UK and also with some of our European allies. But we also know that there have been infringements on free speech that actually affect not just the British. Of course, what the British do in their own country is up to them, but also affect American technology companies and by extension, American citizens. So that is something that we'll talk about today at lunch.
We've had free speech for a very, very long time in the United Kingdom, and it will last for a very, very long time. Well, no, I mean, certainly we wouldn't want to reach across US citizens, and we don't, and that's absolutely right. But in relation to free speech in the UK, I'm very proud of our history there.
We discussed AUKUS, though. We've been discussing AUKUS with the Australians and the Brits. Will you be discussing AUKUS with the Prime Minister, sir?
What does that mean?
AUKUS, the Australia-US Defence Alliance.
Yeah, well, we'll be discussing that. We've had another great relationship, and you have too, with Australia.
Yeah.
We've had a very good relationship with Australia, please.
Mr. President, while we have the Vice President here, are you both disappointed that the AfD didn't come first in the German elections, given your previous support for them?
No, whatever happens with Germany, look, the relationship has been very strong with Germany, but we'll have to see what happens. They have a lot of things going on right now. We'll have to see. No, I'm not disappointed about anything. If anything, you would say that the group that we would be most opposed to lost, and but we got along with them also. We have a very good relationship with all groups in Germany.
On Blackwater CEO Eric Prince was on our channel News Nation. He was talking about his proposal to use private forces to assist in deportations. Have you read that proposal, and do you support it?
No, I haven't seen it. I don't think it's necessary. Our people are doing a phenomenal job. I wouldn't be opposed to it necessarily, but I'd go to our military people, and I'd go to Tom Homan and Christie. I'd go to the various and ask, but I don't see it as being. We're doing unbelievably in getting people out, getting criminals out, people that should have never been here, that the Biden administration with their stupid open border should have never allowed. They came in from prisons and jails and mental institutions, and gang members and drug dealers coming into our country like this. We're getting them out, and we're doing really well. I mean, the level of effectiveness has been incredible. Everybody's talking about it. How about one more?
Mr. President,
Well, not, you've asked.
Mr. President, one on the Middle East.
Go ahead. You look so nice. Here we go. Here's the kill.
Mr. President, are there areas specifically of Ukraine that you're talking about in giving back, specifically Crimea? Have you gotten to those details yet on such an agreement?
Well, you mean the areas that were taken?
Yeah.
There are a lot of areas that were taken. Yeah, we've talked about it. A lot of the sea line has been taken. And we'll be talking about that. And we're going to see if we can get it back or get a lot of it back for Ukraine, if that's possible. We'll be seeing about that. Okay. Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you very much.
There he is.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Okay.
He's
So-
answered 1,009 questions.
He's answered 1,009 questions. I don't know who said that. Was that JD Vance? I don't know who just caught that at the end. He's answered 1,009 questions. Exactly right. Guys, Tony Katz. The name of the show is Tony Katz Today. What's going on, everybody? Good to be with you. I didn't catch what JD Vance said. I'll get the clips coming to me very, very soon. But it's classic in its styling with Trump in that, go ahead, ask what you want, do what you want. It's totally fine. Go ahead. Now, if I have this right, share that tab instead. Okay, good. What I've got here is, according to the president's schedule, that was the meeting with Keir Starmer, and the news conference, which is weird, is supposed to be like at 2:30. There's no way. There's no way they have a news conference at 2:30 now. They just did it. That we'll see. Anyway, we're coming back to the radio show, so we'll check it out. Good to be with you guys. I'm glad you're here.
Mr. President, do you still think that Mr. Zelensky is a dictator?
Did I say that? I can't believe I said that. Next question.
Trump got asked about calling Zelensky a dictator, and he's like, I did? Are you sure? What? Nah. Oh, it's all so good. Tony Katz today. What are you doing? 833-GOT-TONY, 833-468-8669. And of course, Keir Starmer, the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom, is in the U.S. to discuss this peace deal.
Thank you, please.
That's very kind, Mr. President. It sounds as though one of you completely trusts President Putin and one of you doesn't trust him an inch. Have I got that right? And why do you trust him?
Look, it's trust and verify. Let's call it that. And I think we both can be that way. You have to verify because you never know what's going to happen. I know a lot of people that you would say no chance that they would ever deceive you, and they're the worst people in the world. I know others that you would guarantee they would deceive you, and you know what? They're 100% honorable. So you never know what you're getting. No, I have confidence that if we make a deal, it's going to hold.
Well, I would love to see that be the case. But when dealing with Vladimir Putin, one should always be verifying. One should always be verifying. That would be my take. Now, I have a whole series of things to get to. And I know that we're waiting on the Epstein files to be out, and some people have said that they're already out. I haven't been able to see things yet. We'll get to that. Can I share with you an odd thing about Gene Hackman? Because when I was discussing this earlier today, I went in a direction that is rather dark. And I don't know if I'm alone in this or not, and wanted to walk through something with you. It was Gene Hackman, dead at the age of 95, and he was found dead along with his wife and his dog at their home in Santa Fe. And as we're now learning about it, maybe they've been deceased for some time. Varying levels of decomposition, bloating on the face, mummification in her hands and feet. It's like, wow, that's super weird. And some people had immediately said, well, was it carbon monoxide? They didn't know it got into the house, and because they were found dead in different rooms, and the dog, their dog was dead, but there was another dog on the property that was alive, and the door was open, not unlocked, and their words, ajar. The front door was open. There was a prescription bottle, pills scattered on a countertop. What happened here? Now, the answer is, I do not know. Was there a gas leak? Was there a CO2? These would be the things that normal people, I think, would have naturally gone to, and I would not have faulted them in the slightest for going down this road, for thinking this. This is not what I did. I looked at this and said, what happens when someone says they've had enough? I don't know why I went to that place. I can recall a photo of Gene Hackman from a year ago, and he was coming out of a restaurant, and he was very, very frail. And he had long since retired from acting, and he's very frail. I'm like, why did anybody even bother taking this picture of him? Was this necessary? Did we need this photo of Gene Hackman? Can't we just have the art? We've got the celluloid. We're good. We don't need anything else. Thank you very much. This photo of him, very, very frail. And it stuck with me. And I wondered, when I heard that he was dead and his wife was dead, did they decide that he'd had enough? At 95, whatever issues he may have had, he had enough, and he decided this was good. This was it. Maybe his wife, who was 30 years younger than him, decided she had enough too. This was the first place I went to. I do not know what that says about me, except that I find myself wondering whether people who at a certain age have decided they've had enough are so wrong. I've repeated before in my life, having been suicidal at a point in my life, that it gets better. Things do get better. They can get better. Yeah, you got to work for it, but they do. I am as much the living proof of this as any human being out there. Right? If a trained psychiatrist had spoken to me in those days, would they have said I was suicidal? I don't know. I can only tell you that it's how I spent every waking hour for what seemed like months. I mean, I lost months of my life. I don't recall them. I don't remember them. I just in a haze of depression and wondering how I could do this so my wife wouldn't walk in on my, without some kind of warning, just walk in on me dead. I swear to you, that conversation happened a lot. And it took a lot to find some level of utilize a phrase, happiness, to see a conversation about purpose and a value and and to find the reason to wake up and what this, for me, this marriage was, and what this life could be, and everything else, and how I took that. But there are plenty of people who at a certain stage of their life, the health doesn't get better, it gets worse. The days get tougher. Do they have enough? It's the first thing I thought of. Did Gene Hackman say I had enough? I don't know Gene Hackman. I've never met Gene Hackman. But it was the first thing I thought of. And thinking of the people talking about, could have been carbon monoxide, could have been this, that. They, of course, are having the right conversation. And I, of course, picked the darkest subject one could think of. I think it's a worthy one, though. And I think it's worthy because I don't know if we should be people who look at somebody in their 20s and say, there is no reason to take your life. There is a life out there to be lived, and you can actually live it. And it can be good. And it can be valuable to you. It matters. And this thing that you're going through is nothing but temporary. There is a better side. There is. Maybe that's different than 92. It got me thinking about whether or not this conversation needs a comeback. Or maybe this conversation doesn't need to come back at all. Maybe there's just some things that happen. Decisions people make that don't need any other type of conversation to it. I don't know. Maybe the passing of my own father has kind of like triggered this in my head. I didn't realize it was in my head. Was there a moment as he was not well that a voice in his own head, did a voice in his own head say, okay, I've had enough? Wouldn't fault him if he had said the words. That was the first thing I thought of. And I had posted that as I was discussing it on my morning show, because I, like, Tony, could have just been carbon monoxide poisoning. I'm like, it really could have been. How did I not think of that? Why did I not think of that? Like, it was kind of a jolt, like, that never even entered my mind. This so obvious thing of, okay, 3 dead people, what causes that? Right? Like pull yourself out, as I do with everything. I pull myself out of everything. I engage it objectively. I engage it with logic and reason and no emotion. I save emotion for other things. I didn't hear. Boom. I was right to the, well, maybe he had had enough. Wow. I was kind of amazed, and people were amazed. And I had written about it. Like, hey, I went to this pretty dark place. It could have been this, could have been that. We don't know. There's an investigation ongoing. And a bunch of people had written back to me like, I had the same thought. All right, so maybe I'm not so, either maybe I'm not so dark, or my gosh, I didn't realize how many people were in this situation with me. For the sake of clarity, I don't have a bad thought in my head. Even when things are tough and when things are rough, I don't. I do not. Even when hard choices have to be made, that have long-term effect. I don't have that thought in me. I would say so clearly. You know, I have things to live for, right? Even if I'm bothered by something, or I don't see the path towards something, I know that I still have things that I want that responsibility to do, and so I don't think in that way. I don't know if it's so bad if he did. I don't know. Maybe that was it. Like, it just I think it's okay if someone says they've got enough. They've had enough. I don't know. Maybe that's worthy of a conversation. Maybe it's not. It was on my mind. I shared it with you. You can tell me if I'm crazy or not. Agree or disagree. Maybe that's better said. Meanwhile, this is odd. There's going to be an investigation. This is strange stuff. And we might find out more, and I will bring it to you. I'm Tony Katz. This is Tony Katz Today. All right. Let's see what we're looking at here. We're looking at a couple of things. I have not seen where the Epstein files are out. I want to find those. See if we can't go over anything in them. But I don't have that as of yet. I do know that tariffs are going to go into effect with Canada and Mexico on March 4th. We've got that covered. An interesting story about Christianity and eggs, two separate stories. Mind you, that would be awesome if that was together. If I could have figured out how to tie that together, I would have. And then Trump is supposed to still on the schedule to speak at in just a little bit with Keir Starmer. I just don't see how that's coming. And I got a whole bunch of audio I haven't even shared yet. I should get into that. Shouldn't I get into that? I should get into that, shouldn't I? All right. I will do this. There's a lot I haven't gotten to. All right. I did that. Oh, I did do a bunch of it. I did do a bunch. Huh. All right. We'll do this, though. Coming back to the radio show.
Tony, Jasmine Crockett, the super civil person on the left, had something for Elon Musk. Roll this.
Right. Directly to Elon Musk, what would you say?
Off.
That's it. Considering this is the woman who had basically, I mean, she's become the face of the Democrat Party. She does more media than any other Democrat right now, Tony.
I'm just not used to her speaking so gracefully. So that's what really took me with that comment right there.
I was very proud of that. I was proud of that commentary regarding Jasmine Crockett. I thought that was a good line. Tony Katz today. I was on Newsmax the other day discussing that. No, this is what I wanted to share. This was Mark Milley, former chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, talking about how Joe Biden's doing just fine.
President Joe Biden has been portrayed by his political opponents and even some of his allies as too old to be president. I'm not asking for your political opinion here, but how does he seem to you?
Look, I'm not going to comment. I didn't comment on the former president's mental health, physical health, and I'm not going to comment on the current president's mental health or physical health. I think that's highly inappropriate for the senior officer of the United States military to do that. I would just tell you that I meet frequently with the president, and every single time I meet with him, he is just fine. How people interpret that is up to them, but I engage with him frequently and alert, sound, does his homework, reads the papers, reads all the read-ahead material, and is very, very engaging in issues of very serious matters of war and peace.
Sure. Sounds it. Exactly the guy that America saw. Absolutely, sir. Absolutely, General Milley. I believe you. Good gosh. How could anybody possibly believe that? Why would anybody possibly believe that? And I mean, this whole thing about Jake Tapper's book. I should take Ed Morrissey up on that. We should write the book. This is so horrifically egregious what Jake Tapper is doing. The cover-up of Biden's decline. What did the media know and when did they know it? Dude, this was you. This was you who was full on a part of the decline. Wait, I have it. I know I have it right here. I think, yeah, here it is. Here it is. You see, you thought I wouldn't have it, but I knew that if I searched long enough, I would have it. Here we go. Hold on a second. Much better.
How do you think it makes little kids with stutters feel when they see you make a comment like that?
It's very clearly a cognitive decline.
Okay.
That's what I'm referring to. It makes me uncomfortable.
You have no. I can't. That's so amazing. It's so amazing to me that
try and figure out an answer.
A cognitive decline.
President Biden embraces his stutter, talking about it, while Trump mocks it, exaggerates it, belittles it. He's sharp physically. I mean, mentally. Yeah. I think the question is physically, right?
Right.
More so?
Right.
And the guy who's his chief opponent is only 3 or 4 years younger than him.
Exactly.
I mean, you have questioned President Biden's age, mental fitness, ability to lead. Of those supporting Biden, you said, quote, "Shame on all of you pretending everything is okay. You're leading us and him into a disaster." Do you worry that you damaged him at all? I don't doubt that you got hugs and handshakes behind closed doors today, and maybe even publicly, some of them because they like you personally. But I've heard a lot of really nasty stuff about you from your Democratic colleagues. Sure. I mean, just like.
That's Jake Tapper berating Dean Phillips, former congressman from Minnesota, who ran for president against Biden as a Democrat because he knew Biden wasn't up to the task. Everybody knew. And here's Jake Tapper, who's now writing a book saying, look at what the media did in covering this up. Dun, dun, dun. And all the times he was berating people. And yes, about the stutter thing, I have brought this up before. My personal animus with Jake Tapper is, I've told the story a few times in case you missed it. I was on Fox. This was before the 2020 debate between Biden and Trump. And they were talking about who's going to shut off the microphones. And I stated that we're the ones who aren't going to hear Trump. But if Trump's there, Biden will still hear him. Trump will still be able to hear Biden. And you'll have the stammering, stuttering Joe Biden. Is that what the Democrats want? Oh my gosh, Tony Katz is making fun of Joe Biden's stutter. Never happened. Oh, the media matters. 20,000 tweets coming at me. I'm not kidding by the number, by the way. It was massive. It just a huge number. We'll just call it a huge number. And it was my turn in the barrel. I didn't say anything wrong. I didn't insult anybody. And Jake Tapper was one of those people who saw the post, was like, oh, I turned on Twitter and look at what a terrible thing that I saw. He just piled on me as opposed to actually doing any work. So in a personal way, screw Jake Tapper. What a gross thing to do to another person. Don't you take a moment to watch? Don't you take a moment to be the news guy? Nah, pile on. And now he's going to write this. I should write the book. I know I should. I don't even think it would take a month. But this is a level of ugly. There's a lot of this lying. Larry O'Connor wrote about in his book, Shameless Liars, which you can get at Amazon.com. Larry and I came up in radio together. He's out in Washington, D.C. Very, very good guy. Shameless Liars is what it's called. You can get that at Amazon. But this is very specific because this is more than just, I will discuss. Trust me on this. Keep it here. This is Tony Katz today. I had to get the radio side going to a break right there. My point to you is that this isn't just gross in its clear profit motive here. This is trying to shield oneself from attack, from responsibility by saying, well, look, we talked about it. And you said I didn't talk about it. Look what I've written a whole book about it. This is really evil, what we're seeing here. This isn't the kind of thing that one can simply lay down and take. In a very, very visceral way, offended by what I'm seeing. Very much so. And the offense comes from the idea that our media will allow people to play both sides of the fence, smile on both sides of their face, and profit. I don't know if I can abide that. I don't want to abide that. I should write the book. I should. 1,000% should. Good gosh. All right, let me see what Trump is doing right here. Let me see if he's going to go on with this. Look at that. The joint presser. Maybe it's happening. Very exciting. Because it's always good. No, that's Hakeem Jeffries. Hold on a second. What are you even showing me here?
Importance of standing on the side of the American people.
What is this? And what is that foot
We have
ad?
members like Kevin Mullen,
What is?
who was battling an infection after
What
knee
is this?
surgery, who literally
that stop.
left the hospital, got on a plane from Northern California,
I'm not-
traveled with his wife
Nope.
because she
Nope. I cannot listen to Hakeem Jeffries. Just flat out refuse. Boys got to have standards. I have standards. Can't have that. Right? The line, by the way, comes from, I think it comes from, it's not Weird Science. It's Real Genius with Val Kilmer. It's a girls got to have standards. And so I've always translated to boys got to have standards. Yeah, yes, it was Real Genius was the name of the movie. Atherton is in it. Val Kilmer's in it. Who else is in it? I can picture it. Oh, that's right. I got that line. Meanwhile, they're going to come back. I don't know. I do not know if this conference is going to happen in real time or not. It's supposed to happen at 2:30, right? So we will see what we will see. Still set. Anyway, we're coming back to the radio show.
I don't believe he's going to violate his word. I don't think he'll be back when we make a deal. I think the deal is going to hold.
I think the deal is going to hold. He says he's known Vladimir Putin for a long time. You have as well, Mr. Ambassador. Do you have 100% confidence that if a deal is made, Vladimir Putin will stick to it?
No. Why? Based on what? President Trump was in office for 4 years. What deal did he ever conclude with Vladimir Putin? And by the way, let's remember the war in Ukraine started in 2014, not 2022. It was ongoing in eastern Ukraine for the entire Trump presidency. They achieved no peace agreement then. But number two, from the Ukrainian perspective, they don't trust the word of Putin, and they don't trust our words either. We signed a deal with the Ukrainians in 1994 where they gave up their nuclear weapons in return for security guarantees from us that didn't play out. So they want a little more meat on the bones. Just trusting Putin is not something that they're going to go along with. And by the way, the president of the United States should not either. We want to have a lasting deal that is credible, that commits him to peace, not just his word that I'm going to do this because I'm friends with Donald Trump.
So there's a weird thing that happens with longtime state-like folk, people who play in this space. No one can be trusted. Why is this somehow something we're discussing? No one can be trusted. Where do you think trust comes from? Tony Katz today. So good to be with you. Find everything going on at TonyKatz.com. Where do you believe trust comes from? Trust comes from one place: fear. That is it. In its totality, in its entirety, it comes from fear. The only reason people make deals with the United States or keep deals with the United States is for fear of what happens if they cross the United States and our military might. What do you think has been working? That, of course, and paying people off. Do you think it's because they like us or because they trust us? Now, there is something about living up to your word. There is something about whether or not people will look other places if you don't live up to your word, which is what China has been trying to do. And to think otherwise is just nutty. This is the case. But the all of a sudden theory that shockingly, stunningly, amazingly, these people can't be trusted. No one can be trusted. No, I wouldn't trust Putin either. And that Trump says it doesn't make it true. That Trump says that he would trust Putin to hold to a deal does not make it true at all. It's what you say. You know what's going to make the deal work? You know why the war wouldn't have happened if Trump was in office? Fear of what Trump would have done. Do I believe that true? Yes, I do actually. And I think that the vast majority of people see that as true. They see that Trump would have moved in certain ways, acted in certain ways, created a level of fear in certain ways, and that would have kept Russia at bay. Now, maybe Russia could have banked on the idea that they could have created some level of deal within the deal, right? Maybe that could have been said. I don't know for sure. What I know is the idea of trust. Trust is based on what can I get or what am I giving up? That is all. 150%. That is all. So this whole thing is super weird to me. That you've got no confidence that Putin will stick to a deal. Stick to a deal as long as it's beneficial to Putin. We'll stick to a deal as long as it's beneficial to us. The minute it's not beneficial, we're out of the deal. This is not new nor surprising. So why is anybody acting like it is? The egg price issue is going to start becoming a real problem for the administration. And the egg price issue is not the fault of the administration. If you kill off millions of chickens and egg-laying hens, by the way, when I say millions, I mean millions. 166 million birds have been slaughtered to limit the spread of avian bird flu. We're now putting another $1 billion to this. We've already put $2 billion to it. $100 million is going to be for possible vaccines, right? Development of vaccines. $400 million to help the farmers that have been impacted. $500 million to bolster the biosecurity measures. Try and stop the spread before it starts. Egg prices are going to go up 41%. They're already up. Don't get me wrong. I'm not talking about what we've already seen. They are projected to go up another 41%. That's what we're looking at. That's a pretty expensive omelet. There is nothing that's going to make this better except for more chickens. That's the only thing that's going to make this better. If I was the Trump administration, I'd be talking eggs all the time. It's not like you can do anything about people talking about it. People are talking about the price. Talk about what you're doing. Talk about who's being affected. Talk about where you put the money here. Talk about what the Biden administration didn't do there. Talk about how you're different. Talk about where you're changing things. Constantly. Be discussing this. That you are on it, that you see where Americans are living and what they're dealing with. Oh, great. They can't afford their omelet at such and such a place. They can't afford to bake cookies with their kids. Takes an egg or two or three. And if you want to do a meringue, right out. I'd be talking about it all the time. Here's what we're doing. Here's what we're looking at. Here's where we're getting engaged research. Here's where we're getting help here. Supposedly we're going to be getting eggs from Turkey. Supposedly we're going to be getting eggs from Turkey. Now you'll forgive me. My connection has crashed to my radio station. That's always fantastic. So I got to actually work this out. That's why you guys saw the glitch happen. So I got to run. I love you. I'll catch you later.